Hey, welcome to the Sunday preview for this Sunday. We have a reading from the Gospel of Matthew, and it's from the beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount. And it says, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up to the mountain, and after he had sat down, his disciples came to him. He began to teach them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the land. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall be shown mercy. Blessed are the clean of heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are they who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they insult you and persecute you and utter every kind of evil against you falsely because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven." The Gospel of the Lord. Well, everybody in the world acknowledges that the Sermon on the Mount, and especially the Beatitudes, are like the pinnacle of Jesus' teaching, his moral teaching. And it's one of the most sublime things that anybody ever said about how we ought to live in the world. And the contrast with this and the Old Testament is pretty striking. Where the Jews were accustomed to doing the minimum of keeping a lot of rules and felt that they were righteous before God because they had kept all the ceremonial rituals properly. And Jesus introduces something much deeper and much more profound, right? That it's not just a question of the minimum or just rule keeping, but it's a question really of the virtues of the heart, of mercy, of charity, of purity, of that kind of commitment to others and service and love. And for that, there's really no upper limit at all. It's an invitation for Jesus' followers to continue to grow in perfection, toward that ideal of being more Christ-like. And that's what we all need to remind ourselves of constantly, right? Even in the church, we can fall into the same old trap of, okay, what's the least I have to do so I don't fall into sin? Where's the line, between venial sin and mortal sin? Sometimes when we think like that or talk like that, it should immediately hit us that we're missing the point of being a follower of Jesus. Obviously, we don't want to fall into serious sin because that breaks our relationship with God. But the more important thing is that following of Christ means trying to imitate him, trying to reproduce in our own lives those virtues that he lived, right? To love others like Jesus loved us, to serve others, to sacrifice ourselves for others, just like he did, right? And that means none of us is there. None of us has reached the perfection, but all of us have to be on that road and continuing to strive to grow more and more like the person of Jesus Christ. After all, that's why he came into the world, was to show us this new way of life, what discipleship really means. And at the same time, he ends with something that's a little bit ominous, because we might think that that's the ideal world and then everybody will embrace that and everybody will live in harmony, but he talks about persecution at the end. Blessed are you when they persecute you on account of me. Rejoice and be glad, your reward will be great in heaven. So Jesus had no illusions that the world was going to have a big conversion and everybody was going to embrace his teaching. He warned his followers at every step of the way that there'd be opposition. But it's still worth following Christ on this great adventure.